Oh hi, this is ARC the Clarinet Master, and once again I'm currently staying at my sister's place in Melbourne, just chilling with her Italian greyhound, Louis. He's asleep right now, but just follow him on Instagram if you like. So anyway, once again I'm reacting to another video, and this one's called Americans Really Do That? r/Ask Reddit. So yeah, I actually watch Reddit videos in my spare time. I don't think they're comedy gold or anything, or any of the best videos on YouTube or stuff like that, but they're just a sort of fun waste of time, I guess, getting insight into how other people think and stuff, and all the memes from channels like GeoFilms and MK and Elurus, them. But today we're looking at an Ask Reddit video. Now, this one in particular is relevant to me because, as someone who lives in Australia, yeah, we do tend to have a lot of cultural differences to the US, despite being a Western country, like, not in the Western Hemisphere, but we adhere to Western culture and all that, but because, usually the comparison is, between, the UK and the US, or between Europe and the US, and there are some things here in Australia that we do that are same to the US but they don't do in Europe, or we do the same to Europe but don't do in the US, and then there's things that they do in Europe and the US but we don't do here in Australia. Like celebrate Christmas in the winter, for example. Yeah, can't really help that one because of the, the tilt of the earth. But yeah, you get the point, right? So I thought as an Australian, I thought I'd give my insight into these videos as we react to them. So without further ado, let's get started. 3, 2, 1, play.
Non-Americans of Reddit.
Wait, hang on. Let's make sure the volume's all the way up. Okay, now let's go. 3, 2, 1, play.
Non-Americans of Reddit. What is the craziest rumor you heard about America that turned out to be true? Happy 4th of July. Surfer dudes actually speak like that. Californians speak like that too. I'm from Quebec, and when we went down to Boston for a school trip, I sneezed in public and heard 2 or 3 people say bless you. Quite a weird rumor I had heard not 2 months prior to that. I thought it was nice.
Ah yes, the whole bless you thing when people sneeze. Yeah, well, we do that in Australia as well, and I don't really get what that has to do with sneezing, saying bless you to someone. When I was younger, I used to think it was onomatopoeic, you sneeze, achoo, and someone says bless you, it almost sounds like a sneeze, whatever, I don't know, but from what I've heard, the reason why people say that is because, when you sneeze, your heart briefly stops beating for a bit, and then it starts again, and so people say bless you to say oh God bless you that you've managed to survive sneezing, you survived your brush with death. And I don't even know if that's true or not, but I always thought it was kind of strange, and it's kind of funny that that's probably a lot of kids' introduction to the word bless nowadays. Of course, we all know about the German Gesundheit, which roughly translates to good health, which of course is a bit more of a literal thing to say after someone sneezes. It's like you're wishing good health upon them, and all that stuff, yeah. Though, from what I've heard, it is more common to hear Gesundheit in the US than it is here in Australia, though I'd imagine it's a lot more common in German-speaking nations. Not sure about the rest of Europe, though. I've never been to Europe aside from England, where I was born, and even then I came over here when I was 1. Here, being Adelaide, I don't live in Melbourne. My sister does, but anyway, moving on.
Wait, you don't say bless you when someone sneezes? I mean, it's not like it means anything, so I could understand why. It just seems so strange to not say anything. I mean, how?
What about Gesundheit? Or, I don't know, what's the French word for good health? Bonne sanité? whatever.
How else are we supposed to deal with the demons that escape through sneezes?
Yeah, that's like on The Simpsons when Milhouse says that, the episode where Bart sells his soul. Like Milhouse says that, like, when someone's, like when you sneeze, that's your soul trying to escape, and saying bless you, like shoves it back in. Moving on.
That people actually get attacked by alligators which got in their pools, specifically referring to Florida here.
Oh gee, that's pretty scary actually. When I lived on the farm in the Adelaide Hills, we would occasionally have kangaroos come onto our property, and we wouldn't go near them, we just watched them from afar, because they can be a bit dangerous, they can disembowel you and stuff. Oh, and we also got a bunch of other animals, like usually farm animals come onto our property, like sheep, cattle, ducks. Thankfully we didn't get any pigs, because we weren't allowed to have pigs on our property because their waste would go into the sewage system and pollute the river or whatever, but yeah, moving on.
I'm still not 100% sure is true, so hopefully can confirm. Buoy is pronounced buoy?
Yeah, like here in Australia, and I think also the UK as well, we pronounce it as boy, like a male child. And yeah, I remember in school that was listed as one of the classic examples of homophones, words that sound the same. Although, yeah, it was funny in that Simpsons episode where, like, how sometimes they have those anthology episodes where they have like 3 stories, like The Simpsons are like reenacting classic stories and playing the characters. Well, they did one specifically with the nautical theme, like on the seas and ocean and stuff, where the framing story was that they were at the Flying Dutchman, that restaurant that the sea captain owns, and I think it was that episode where the restrooms were listed as boys or buoys and gulls, respectively. Which always confused me as a kid because, gull and girl are not pronounced the same. Although, then again, neither are boy and buoy in American English, so makes sense for them, I guess. And I just realised I've rambled on way too long about this. I don't want this to end up like that other reaction video where I spent nearly 2 hours reacting to a 10-minute video.
Yup, it's buoy. Hooked on Phonics doesn't work with a lot of maritime terms. Like leeward is pronounced leeward and bosun is pronounced bosun.
Bosun? Huh. Okay then. Yeah, like the same thing applies to a lot of like British place names, like Greenwich is pronounced Greenwich, the Cester suffix is just ster, Worcestershire is Worcestershire, like they don't even pronounce the R, like in Worcester, like not even in a way that would imply that there's an R there, like Warsaw, Worcester, like no, it's Worcester, like it's spelled W-O-O-S-T, yeah. Yeah, English is a weird language. It's the result of trying to standardize the spellings, even though a lot of the words are of Germanic and Latin and French and Greek origin, like all these different languages clustering together into one. And don't even get me started on the great vowel shift. At least when German shifted its vowels in pretty much the same direction, they also changed the spelling as well, so... But English was just like, nope. Honestly, I think everyone should just learn Esperanto. It's a much more consistent language. Chufere mia hundido, mia más grande gatito, little kitten boy. Yeah, hang on, I'm not sure if he's on camera. Yeah, there he is, right there. Little kitten boy. That's what my sister calls him, because he's basically a cat. Anyway, moving on.
That Dolly Parton has her own theme park in Tennessee. I thought it was a joke.
I didn't even know that. I was quite surprised to hear about this one. Dolly Parton having a theme park. Random. I mean, what's next? A theme park for Louis the Italian Greyhound? Oh, yeah, he's a little punk rock Louis. Yeah, I think it was like 6 months old when I did my latest reaction video. Anyway, moving on.
That woman is a saint. She has a book program for children where, once they are born, they will receive a free children's book once a month until they turn 5.
But wait, how they? I mean, don't get me wrong. Like that. Like this is an awfully generous thing that not actually awfully, but like this is a really generous thing that she's doing. Like donating books to children. But how are they supposed to read them if they haven't even attended school yet? I mean, like I learned to read when I was like 2 years old. Like my mum made these videos for me, and I was like hooked on reading for the longest time. And I don't even think I ever wrote backwards letters like a lot of children do. Probably because I watched Letterland as a kid, where basically, for those of you who don't know, it's this cartoon about anthropomorphic letters of the alphabet, and they're basically represented as people, animals, living inanimate objects, etc. And like for example, the letter B is a bunny rabbit, and D is a duck. Like they have names, but I'm sure most of you don't care about that right now. But it's kind of like what Hetalia is for countries in a sense, but with letters of the alphabet. So it sort of helped me to visualize the letters and sort of just picture them as, you know, these people and these animals and stuff. And like it helped me get the characters, pun intended, down correctly. But anyway, so yeah, like I learned to read when I was 2, but like I'm more of the exception rather than the norm. Like most kids don't learn to read or write until they're in school. Like for what I've heard, apparently even 2nd graders can't read or write for shit. But so it's like, how are they supposed to read these books that Dolly Parton sends to them? Or is this to help them learn to read and write before they start school? Because if so, then yeah, again, good on her. Yeah, that Dolly Parton is a saint. Like this for a Klondike bar. Oh, for a Klondike bar, right? Yeah, like this person here says. Still, I don't get why she has a theme park. Like, unless they give out free books there, in which case, good on them once again. Don't know if they actually do that, but whatever, let's move on.
That is amazing.
Indeed.
I always thought that the Olive Garden in The Simpsons was just code for generic restaurant.
Yeah, it does sound like that, doesn't it? Now, in my experience, I actually heard about Olive Garden from the Garfield movie of all things. Like, yeah, you know how badly that movie gets bashed on for its copious amount of product placements? Yeah, like when John is taking Garfield to the vet, he just says, "Oh, I'm taking you to some place that always leaves you feeling very refreshed." And then Garfield just lists off a bunch of places that could possibly refer to. "Oh yeah, Chuck E. Cheese. No, Wendy's? Taco Kitty? Well, I'm stumped. Maybe Olive Garden for you." and the funny thing is that none of those places he listed in that scene, like, we don't have any of them here in Australia, so I always thought they were, like, it's just like this person here, I thought they were just made up places. Yeah, even Chuck E. Cheese's, which, sure, if you're American, like, that name probably takes you all the way back to your childhood, the nostalgia and all that stuff, but not for me. Nope, you don't have them in Australia. Like, I was legit surprised to find that my hometown has a Carl's Jr. It was probably established long after I found out about it from Penn and Teller bullshit. Yeah, like, because like we do have a lot of American fast food chains, mostly the more popular ones, such as McDonald's, KFC, Pizza Hut. I don't know, is Pizza Hut even a thing anymore? Like, I'm pretty sure Domino's is American in origin, and we also have Burger King, but of course we call it Hungry Jack's here because the name Burger King was already taken. It's kind of like how the Sega Mega Drive became the Genesis in America because the name Mega Drive was already taken. But everywhere else it was the Mega Drive. Yeah, same thing happened to Burger King here. We call it Hungry Jack's. And also, McDonald's is colloquially referred to as Macca's here because people tend to pronounce it McDonald's, whereas Americans call it McDonald's, and so they call it Mickey D's. Donald, Mickey, yeah, seems a bit goofy, right? Right, Louis? whereas the Brits call it McDonald's. Mick, Mac, Mc. Yeah, ironically though, the Australian pronunciation is probably closer to like the original Celtic prefix, Mac, which means son of, but has since become associated with the McDonald's franchise of burgers and fries and useless junk. I mostly only go there for the chai lattes. The McDonald's does really good chai lattes from the McCafe, and occasionally I get fries from there because they're not the best fries. I personally think, well, we call them chips here in Australia, but like KFC, in my opinion, probably does the best chips. Yeah, like Australian KFC does chips, fries, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, it's really confusing because here in Australia, like we use the term chips to refer to both kinds of chips. The thinly sliced potatoes that come in the packets and the deep fried rectangles of potatoes. Like both crisps and fries are referred to as chips here. It's confusing. So we usually use the term hot chips to refer to, you know, the hot kind of chips. Unless the context makes it obvious. Like if you say you're getting chips from KFC or McDonald's or Hungry Jack's, or like I think even Domino's does chips. Like they're like these big fat chips that come in a cardboard box, just like similar to the ones from KFC, but I think they use different seasoning. But like, yeah, if you say you're getting them from one of those fast food joints, they'll know what kind of chips you're referring to. You're not talking about Thins or Lays or any of that stuff. But anyway, I've rambled on long enough, so moving on.
I studied in Maryland for about half a year back in 2017. I'd always heard that Americans are like super good at pie. I was pretty much all alone during Thanksgiving since everyone else was with their families. One of the RAs I'd befriended knocked on my door and brought me all different kinds of pie. Dear Lord, I've never tasted anything that delicious. From blueberry to apple to pumpkin. Every single pie. They were all amazing.
Oh, I could so go for some apple and blueberry pie right now, but yeah, the one that always catches me off guard whenever I hear about it is pumpkin pie, because here in Australia, we eat pumpkin as a vegetable. Yeah, you heard right, we eat pumpkin as a vegetable, which sounds strange because it's like, it's a fucking fruit, but then again, so are tomato and cucumber and, God, is capsicum a fruit? Bell peppers, I believe they're called in the US. Oh yeah, gourds are also a fruit, but they're eaten as a vegetable. You know, I just realized, like, you never see pumpkins on VeggieTales. Yeah, probably because Americans consider it a fruit, but then again, one of the main characters is a grape, and there's also a blueberry, so I guess anything goes on that show. But yeah, I feel like having apple pie now. Yeah, KFC is now doing chicken pie, like, I don't know, maybe I'm just biased from watching the movie Chicken Run, where like the main characters are chickens and they almost get turned into pies, but I don't know, I just don't like the idea of having chicken in pie. I don't know, it just seems like it would be a little chunky maybe, I don't know. Then again, any meat is chunky before it's mushed up and stuff, but I don't know, is like minced chicken ever a thing? No, I don't think it's minced when you have it in pie. At least I do get the Zinger Stacker burgers from KFC. Moving on.
All the food is bigger.
No comment.
So apparently yellow school buses are actually a thing in America. I honestly thought it was just a cartoon thing, but no.
I always thought school buses in general were a cartoon thing, because here in Australia, the parents typically drop the kids off at school. Like, how does the school bus thing even work? Like, do the parents have to give the school their address so that the bus driver person knows where to pick the kids up from? Like, what if the kid is super late or something? Like, do they just drive off without the kid? Ugh, man. Although, I guess having school buses is technically better for the environment because you're basically carpooling or a bus pooling it. Ugh, yeah, the sooner we can switch to solar-powered vehicles, the better. All this climate change stuff going on, but yeah, like at my primary school, like, we do have buses at the schools, but they're mostly used for going on excursions, which is what we call field trips here in Australia. Like field trips are called excursions in Australia. Like, I believe like Americans, like when they say excursion, they're referring to like a long voyage into unknown lands and stuff, like an expedition basically. Like I don't know if those are the same thing, but yeah, it's funny because the second season of Blinky Bill is called. It's like, you know how Harvey Street Kids changed its title to Harvey Goes Forever for the second season? Well, a similar thing happened to The Adventures of Blinky Bill, like when it got its second season. They called it Blinky Bill's Extraordinary Excursion. The extraordinary part is referring to Blinky Bill's catchphrase that he says at the end of every episode. But the excursion part, I think, was meant to be like a play on words, like it's playing on both meanings of the term excursion. Because Blinky and his friends are on a school trip, but then they get lost and then they're exploring the bushlands of Australia, so they're going on that kind of excursion. Yeah, it's kind of funny how that works. Like, it's sort of a play on words that's sort of lost to non-Australian viewers. Sort of like how the nice tip line from Home Alone is with an American term, like tipping, you know. I'll get to that if tipping comes up in this video, because I have a lot to say about that.
I'm from Australia, and all my life I believed red Solo cups were like 555 area codes a Hollywood prop. When I immigrated to the US, my mill was making dinner and offered me iced tea in a red Solo cup.
Huh. Is that only an American thing? Because, like, this person says they're from Australia, but, like I swear that I've had red cups at parties that I've been to. Like, for drinking, like, soft drinks out of, like, soda pop. You Americans. Yeah, like from what I've heard, like there are certain areas that call it soda, others call it pop. Like here in Australia we just call them fizzy drinks because of, you know, the fizz from the bubbles and stuff, but the term soft drinks is used more formally. I don't even know what the British term is, or Canada or Ireland. So I'm not sure about New Zealand because yeah, New Zealand is kind of funny. They're like Australia's Canada, or Australia's Ireland, or whatever you want to call it. Or Australia's Australia, even. But, yeah, red Solo cups. Is that really exclusive to the States? We're moving on.
I lost it. Made everyone sign the cup. I've still got it.
Nice.
The Solo cup stories always kill me. We had some German exchange students in high school and one of them loved how many American things were just like the movies. We wrote
just like the movies. Yeah, I bet Americans must be confused when things they just do every day, like in real life, are just like the movies. Like, as someone who grew up in Australia, it's often hard for me to tell, like, what things they do on TV and in movies are just things they do in America, or what's completely fictional, or even stuff that they did in the olden days but don't do anymore, and like people would have also done in Australia back in the day. Like, for example, like kids roaming around the street, like roaming around the town and stuff, like on their own without any parents. Like, I used to think that was just something people did in America and that we don't do in Australia, but apparently that's not the case. Like I've heard contradicting stories that like either it's just something that's purely fictional, while others say that the kids used to do that in the olden days, but now we've become more aware of stranger danger and stuff. And I also just recently found out that the grid layout you see that a lot of houses have on TV, I also thought that was just a common layout in America, because I know the Americans have somewhat different looking houses than we do here in Australia. Like, it's not a drastic change, but like one time my mum and I were looking on a real estate website and like we could just tell by the house that I mistakenly went on the American one. But yeah, the classic grid layout where you walk into the front door and you have the stairwell immediately to the front, and you got the living room to your left and the dining room to the side, and then like to the right, and then you got the kitchen behind that and the lounge room. Like, apparently that's fiction. Basically, like on The Simpsons, for example, or the Garfield movie again. Like, apparently it's just built like that so it's easier to film or whatever. But of course, like The Simpsons being animated, I think it's just tradition. But yeah, moving on.
Rode in the back of a truck to a pizza place for lunch that day and he was loving it. In the afternoon there was a party/get-together at someone's house. The kid was eyeing the stack of Solo cups and coyly asked, "Can I keep one?" We said sure, and the red Solo cup was the cherry on top of his American experience that day. Masked people come to your house, knock on your door asking for candy. Mostly it's just packs of kids, but sometimes whole families. This was my friend's Halloween culture shock.
Yeah, so the thing about Halloween, it's like often when I go to shops around October and like even as early as September, like we often have like Halloween decorations like sold in shops and stuff, because we do have Halloween parties here in Australia, but trick-or-treating is not very common, to be honest, because I don't know, it could be because of the whole stranger danger thing, like because there's this old wives' tale, this rumor, or whatever you want to call it, that apparently some people put poison in the lollies, or they just put straight up poison into your bucket so that you'll be knocked unconscious, if not outright killed later. But it's like, what would those people have to gain from that? Or unless they want to molest the child's unconscious body. Yeah, that's actually kind of a good point. Yeah, I always thought it was for that reason, but it's like I don't even know if it's true or not, but for whatever reason, trick-or-treating isn't very big here. But I do remember one year when I saw these couple of kids knock on our door and yell, "Trick-or-treat!" Like, yeah, it's only happened to us once, on that one night. And just those two kids, it's the only time it's happened to us, as far as my memory is concerned. But yeah, not a big thing here in Australia. Like we do have Halloween parties, like my family had a Halloween party at our house once, if not multiple times, but like I remember one in particular we had on the farm. But yeah, we're not really big on the whole trick-or-treating thing. But I did know about it from seeing it in like movies and TV. Like I saw it on like SpongeBob and The Buzz on Maggie and The Angry Video Game Nerd and, you know, all that stuff. So it's like I wasn't completely unaware of trick-or-treating. It's just, and oh yeah, I think South Park also. But yeah, Cartman wearing his fucking ghost costume that looked like a Klansman outfit. Man, that is an edgy show, especially back then when it was easier to shock people. It's like that Bart Simpson quote about Friday the 13th Part 1. Yeah, in keeping with the Halloween theme, but yeah, moving on.
Sports bars are actually exactly how they're portrayed on TV, just much less attractive people.
Sports bars. Oh yeah, at first I thought they were talking about like a muesli bar or a protein bar or something. I was like, what? I've never heard of sports bars, but then they mentioned the much less attractive people, and it's like a bar where you buy alcohol and you watch the sports. Like, yeah, we have those in Australia as well, and like, I remember like as a kid or a tween or whatever, I used to think the term bistro or bistro, however you pronounce it, was referring to this kind of establishment, but apparently it's not. It's just like a little cafe or whatever. But I think because that one particular establishment that my family and I would go to regularly when we lived in Oakden just happened to have bistro, restaurant, sport or whatever. I don't know, just, yeah, and it's pronounced bistro because it's Italian, not bistro. Moving on.
I actually don't properly know if this is true, but yous have like a whole aisle in your supermarkets dedicated to just the hundreds of cereals you have?
Here in Australia, I think we do have an aisle dedicated to cereals, but like, we don't have nearly the amount of different types of cereal that they do in the US. Like we have Fruit Loops and we have Rice Bubbles, which, yeah, they're just, you know, Rice Krispies, but we call them Rice Bubbles. Like, we still have the same mascots as well, but they're just drawn in a lot more cutesy style. We have Frosted Flakes, and we have Cocoa Pops, which, is that something they have in America? I don't know, like, it's basically Rice Bubbles, Krispies, but with chocolate flavouring. It's advertised as being like a chocolate milkshake. Only crunchy! Yeah, that's what they say in the ads. So, like, think like Cocoa Puffs, but tiny and all misshapen and stuff. But like, we don't have like most of the other cereals, like we don't have Lucky Charms or Captain Crunch. Like, I think you can buy them from Black Bees because they're like, it's this sweet shop that we have at Rundle Mall where Like they actually have cereals imported from the UK and the US. Like it's like the only place in Adelaide where you can get Lucky Charms or any American cereal that you can't normally get at the supermarket. But like we don't have Cookie Crisp, or we don't have Trix. We don't have, I don't know, is there another cereal called Kix? I believe it was referenced in the Japan episode of Geography Now when Keith snickers at how one of like the airport codes in Japan, like for one of their towns, is just KIX or Kix. Kix. So yeah, because we don't have all the same cereals as the US, I don't think our cereal aisles are like packed or anything, or even dedicated to just cereal.
Mostly true. It's cereal and other breakfast items, like granola and oatmeal. But mostly cereal. Drink sizes. Holy shit. When my family visited in 2017, we landed in Texas for a stopover. First thing I saw in the shops part of the terminal was a dude who was drinking from what looked like an actual freaking bucket. Here in NZ, our large drinks would be considered an American small or maybe medium
Yeah, that is so weird. Ugh. Yeah, I'm just grateful to be living in a country where, you know, we're more careful about what we eat. Like, I can barely even eat large chips from KFC because they're just... Like, after eating a Zinger Stacker burger, I just get stuffed to the brim. Like, I can only imagine... then again, the KFC doesn't do fries in America, so... I don't know how it is for them. Like they normally just like get like a bucket of the KFC drumsticks. At least that's what you usually see on like The Simpsons or South Park or whatever. Now, I'm sure they probably do have other items in the US, but from what I heard, they don't do twisters over there. And in Southeast Asian countries, like they also put shrimp or prawn or whatever you want to call it into their products as well. It's because, you know, got to cater to that Asian demographic. And yeah, like the whole drink thing as well in America is weird because apparently you're allowed to get refills. Like, I don't even think I've tried doing that in Australia because at Subway, like they have these machines that dispense the drinks where basically you just buy the cup and then you fill it up with like Coke or Fanta or whatever. And I don't even know if you're allowed to refill it. Like, I've never tried, I've never asked. I don't think you're allowed to. Like, I was legitimately surprised when I first heard about refills at food joints from The Amazing Atheist when he responded to the questions Asians have for white people video. It was like recounting of his experience from going to like a Thai restaurant where basically one of the issues he took with it, among other things, like how they were really stingy with the ingredients and stuff, was that they charged him for refills. And I was like, wait, aren't you supposed to do that? Like, because it's like they're charging you for their product, basically. But apparently, free fuck, it's a tongue twister. But like, yeah, apparently it's okay to get refills for free in the US. And what's this? Texas is known for basically having double sizes of anything from out the state. Ooh, okay. Yeah, I've heard about that everything's bigger in Texas. Yeah, I heard about that from my high school principal who went to Texas one time. Said everything's bigger in Texas, and like the state itself is actually the biggest out of all the 48 contiguous states, the 48 main states. Alaska is bigger, but it's one of the two freak states that aren't joined to it. It's got a huge chunk of Canada separating Alaska from the rest of the US, and plus not that many people live in Alaska. But yeah, Texas, like for the longest time, Texas was the biggest of the US states, right up until '59 when Alaska joined the Union. Yeah, to pretty much everyone, it's still basically the biggest state. Sort of like how, you know, people tend to think of China as a bigger country than Russia, if only because there's a shit ton more people in China, whereas Russia is like very sparsely populated for how fucking massive it is, spanning across 11 time zones. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, like in Australia, like we're very sparsely populated for a country that's about the size of the main 48 states. Like most of the population is centered around the capital, like the state capitals. Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide, Perth, Brisbane. Not sure about Tasmania though. I don't know if most of the population lives in Hobart, the capital of Tasmania, because like there's no fucking desert in Tasmania. Does Victoria, the state that Melbourne is the capital of, even have that much desert? Yeah, I think probably a little bit in the northwest part, but like, yeah, because there's so much desert that like pretty much nobody lives in. Like there's a few towns like Alice Springs and Oodnadatta and Eucla, like even though I think Eucla's on the coast, but it's on a very barren part of the coast. It's kind of like the Skeleton Coast in Namibia, but it's in Australia, and pretty much all of Western Australia is just a desert except for Perth and a few other actual cities there. The whole of Australia only has about like just over 20 million people. Like that's the same population as Madagascar basically. And I just want to check which US state that would roughly correspond to. Oh, I got a message on YouTube. Ah, never mind, it's just the same one I got on the computer. Okay, so there's about as many people in Australia as there are in the US state of Florida. Yeah, so more people live in Texas than in Australia. That is like, there's about 28 million people in Texas. That is crazy. A state that's only about the size of, like, probably somewhere between Queensland and New South Wales, like, and yet there's more people in it than the whole of Australia. That is crazy. And on a similar note, there's about as many people in my home city of Adelaide as there are in Dallas, Texas. Just over 1 million people. How many people does Melbourne have? Okay, 5 million. Okay, so Melbourne has about as many people as... Melbourne has more people than Los Angeles. That is weird, but still not as many as New York. Like, Los Angeles has like close to 4 million, whereas New York City is 8 million. And so Melbourne is 5 million, so it's like roughly between those two. And let's look at Sydney. How many people live in Sydney? Also 5 million. So both Sydney and Melbourne, like individually, are somewhere between Los Angeles and New York in terms of the population, whereas Adelaide is only about as much as Dallas. Anyway, enough of that tangent.
Texas is known for basically having double sizes of anything from any other states. We need bigger cups though than most of the world, since over half of the cup is filled with ice.
Oh, I get it now. So it's mostly water, right, that are in the cups. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you know, drink plenty of water and all that stuff. Yeah, whereas here in Australia, we don't get as much rain here, at least... Like we pretty much only get rain in winter and a little bit of the very start of the spring, whereas in the US, I think rain is primarily associated with spring, because you know they get snow in winter. And of course, their spring would be a little bit cooler than ours. I just thought, isn't spring supposed to be all bright and colorful and stuff? Little flowers and shit. But you know, flowers got a drink. But yeah, here in Australia, pretty much only rains during the winter. Yeah, like we're pretty much the polar opposite of Ireland in that sense, where in Ireland it rains for 9 months of the year, whereas we only get like 3 months of rain, if even that. We basically have to conserve water and not use as many goddamn ice cubes in our cups, and so we just have smaller cups. At least if I had to guess, that would be it. Moving on.
Not exactly crazy, but I wanted to test out the stereotype that Americans will talk to anyone, so I sought out a sports bar on my first visit. Ended up having a ton of really fun conversations with total strangers who I'll never talk to ever again. It was great.
Yeah, we don't really do that here in Australia. We're very much like Europe in that sense. We don't really talk to random people like when we're on the bus or whatever, or if we're standing in, or if we're just out somewhere. Me personally, I do it occasionally, which is, yeah, occasionally I do have decent conversations with other people. Like if I'm on a plane or something, I once had this pretty good conversation with this guy about my short films that I make.
American. I will speak to anyone about anything. I can't even count the number of times I've randomly started conversations with strangers, become friends within 30 minutes, then never spoken to them again. When I started traveling for work, I'd often find myself in bars or on flights and buses alone, so I'd end up starting a convo so I could have some human interaction. Lol. Biscuits and gravy is a legit thing.
Yeah, okay, so like, what do Americans mean when they say biscuit exactly? Let me just check. Biscuit. Biscuit as a... Oh, okay, right. So apparently the thing on the left is what Americans call a biscuit, whereas here in Australia, those other three things are what we would call a biscuit. I believe Americans would call them cookies, although here in Australia, we generally only use the term cookie to refer to like the stereotypical like cartoon chocolate chip type of cookie, especially those that we get from Subway, probably because of like whenever you see it on TV, like, you know, the Cookie Monster on Sesame Street, like whenever he eats cookies, they're always those chocolate chip ones. So at least that's what I personally always refer to as a cookie. So yeah, biscuits and gravy, is that something they do in the US? I mean, I don't particularly like gravy myself. Also, you can ride motorcycles without helmets in some states. Yeah, I don't get that either. It seems a bit dangerous.
Also, you can ride motorcycles without helmets in some states, and your iced tea isn't sweetened unless you ask for sweet. Edit. Nothing could have possibly prepared me for the absolute dichotomy of sweet tea versus iced tea in the comments. This is evidently very important to many.
Yeah, not for us in Australia. Like, our iced tea here, like we actually get like bottles of, like plastic bottles of Lipton iced tea. It's, like, it might seem weird for you Americans, but like when I think of iced tea, like I've actually drunk the stuff, and it's because it's sweet, isn't it? That's why I like it, isn't it? Damn. Moving on.
$2 bills.
Yeah, I was surprised to find that $1 bills were even a thing in the US. Like, I think I found out from, like, yeah, SpongeBob, of course. I'm sure that's how most non-American kids are exposed to American currency, like through SpongeBob, because, you know, it's of Mr. Krabs and his obsession with money. But yeah, apparently dollar bills are a thing in the US, whereas in Australia we normally just use dollar coins, and $2 coins as well for that matter. But it's weird because the $2 coin is smaller than the $1 coin. Like, what? Why? What sense does that make? Like, because like they have dollar coins in the US as well. Like, I think Lady Liberty is pictured on it, but they're not as commonly used. And they also have the Sacagawea dollar, which isn't even legal tender. Instead, you trade it at the bank for a real dollar. At least that's what I heard on The Simpsons. And it's fucking stupid. Like, you should be able to spend it as a dollar. Like, here in Australia, we have coins that have alternate, like, pictures on the tail side, like whether it's like commemorating some event, whether it be like the Commonwealth Games or the new millennium or what have you, or the centennial of the country's founding. But like, you can still spend those coins. You don't, you know, trade it at the bank for a real 50-cent coin or any of that bullshit. It's like, just spend it like it's a normal fucking currency. Jeez. But yeah, I was more surprised to find that $2 bills were a thing in the US because they don't have those in Monopoly. Like, I just assumed that the US currency would be just like that of like Monopoly money, made out of paper and stuff. Then again, Americans probably think Monopoly money is more similar to that of Canadian currency or European, or Australian even, just because it's multicolored instead of all just being white with green printed on it. Are $500 bills even a thing, like, ever? Anyway, moving on.
I remember working at a Taco Bell and our new cashier never saw a $2 bill in her life, and this dude tried to use it to buy his taco, and she said, "Sir, this is counterfeit and I will call the police if you don't leave." He starts yelling at her and our manager steps up, takes the bill and gives the man his order and tells the girl that $2 bills are actual currency. I couldn't stop laughing.
Okay, so apparently $2 bills aren't as common in the US. There's still like $100 bills here in Australia, which I think $100 bills have sort of gone out of circulation. They don't make them anymore. Like, for the longest time, the highest that ATMs will spit out is a $50 note. Like, if you ask for $200, it will spit out 4 $50 notes. Whether or not the $100 note is still legal tender, I can't even say. I could look it up if I want to, but yeah, I don't feel like it. Yeah, it's funny because the $100 note is actually green, just like the American notes. And that's the one that's not being pumped out anymore. Now we've got every color but green. We've basically got the pink or purplish $5 note, the blue $10 note, the red 20, and the yellow 50. So basically we used to have all the colors of the emotions from Inside Out, which is weird because the lady on the red $20 note kind of looks like Sadness. Like, seriously, she fucking looks like Sadness. Well, technically, Sadness looks like Mary Raby, however you're saying it. The lady on the $20 note, even though Sadness is blue, but it's like, you don't plan this shit out, man. Although it's funny because in both Canada and New Zealand, even though they use different currencies, both of their $20 notes are green and they both have Elizabeth II pictured on them. Isn't that a funny coincidence? Of course, it makes sense they would have Elizabeth II on any of their currencies, seeing how they're both Commonwealth realms. Just like Australia, we have Elizabeth II pictured on all of our coins and on our $5 note. So, yeah, take that, femme fatale, when there's no women on the money and stuff. Yeah, it must suck being a woman in the US. But like the fact that both Canada and New Zealand, the fact that both of those countries both have Elizabeth II on the same denomination but in different currencies and in the same color, like that is was that intentional? Did one country intentionally copy the other, or is that just a coincidence? Like, I just found it out one time because I saw the $5 note had Edmund Hillary, the guy who climbs Mount Everest. So I wanted to check if all of them had it, or was it just the $5 note? Because some countries only have one, like Singapore, for example, just have one guy pictured on all of the notes. Yeah, you know the guy who looks like Walt Disney. Whereas other countries, like, they basically only use color to differentiate them. Whereas the US has them all the same color and they only use like different people on them to differentiate them. Whereas in Australia and New Zealand and probably, yeah, I think Canada also does it. Like, they have different colors and different people. So it's like double layering. God, it must suck being a colorblind person in Singapore. Yeah, I don't know. Does the UK also have different people or just Elizabeth? It's a UK currency. Bank notes. Yeah, because like I said, I was born in England, but... Oh, okay, so... Wait, hang on. Is that like... Okay, so they all have Elizabeth II pictured on them. They have a different person pictured on the other side. So it's like they sort of go half and half, basically. And they do also have different colours, but it's a little hard to make out compared to like Australia, where it's like bright saturated colours on all the notes. And the Euros just use different landmarks in addition to the different colours, obviously. But I've rambled long enough about currency, so let's move on.
Crazy hospitable turned out to be true. Talkative turned out to be true as well.
Yeah, I'd like to go to the US sometime. Just for that alone, in addition to other reasons, obviously, but moving on.
American state and national parks are some of the most beautiful places on Earth. All parks could use more funding, but American parks are well staffed and maintained. There's real pride.
Yeah, it's like, is it just a Europe thing where the national parks aren't really well maintained? Because here in Australia we have national parks and they look probably not as well as the American ones, but they look decent enough. I think it's probably just the bushfires probably fuck it up all the time. Because we're a very dry country. Yeah, where's Smokey the koala bear when you need him? By the way, koalas are not actually bears, just pointing that out. When I went to Borneo earlier this July for my birthday, I went to Bako and Mulu National Parks and they looked pretty well. Like if you go to my Shutterstock where I sell my photos, I've actually uploaded some of the photos from Bako National Park and it's pretty pristine and beautiful with nice beaches and the tropical green vegetation. I still haven't uploaded them all, that's how many there are, but mostly how lazy I am, because I surely would have done them all I would have submitted them all by now if I wasn't so goddamn lazy. It's like, yeah, I don't feel like doing them all, I might do them tomorrow, but yeah, I don't think that's exclusively an American thing to have the national parks well kept and stuff, but I don't know, maybe it's because Europeans just hang around in the cities more often. Yeah, not like ours. But moving on.
I love our national and state park systems. One of my state parks recently got a herd of bison which I haven't seen in the wild since my trip to Yellowstone. The week I graduate, I'm going to go see them and relax in nature.
Yeah, that's a big deal because the American bison, or buffalo as everyone calls them, yeah, these are the what James, like the angry video game nerd, is referring to when he says, rather have buffalo diarrhea, coming out my asshole, or, something like that. I don't know. He has a real fascination with shit for some reason. But anyway, like, it's such a big deal because they're almost extinct. Like, I had this book called Animal when I was younger, which I would read all the time. Like, I read it so much that it fell apart from all the reading, just like Vice Rhino's Bible. So my aunt actually lent me her copy of the book, and I read that one so much that the spine came off. Yeah, I didn't really read that one as much because I sort of got over it by that time. But yeah, the fact that the spine actually came off and I printed out a label for it. Yeah, but anyway, it's basically a book that contains a bunch of information about all the different species of animals on the planet. I actually learned about all the different animal classifications from that book all the way back when I was in primary school, whereas most people don't learn about it until high school when they take their biology classes. So it goes kingdom, phylum, class, order. Yeah, you get the idea. You probably remember this from high school biology. But oh, and there's also domain above the kingdom. But anyway, like, basically for each species of the animal, they didn't list every species of animal, especially for invertebrates and passerine birds, because there's just so many of them. They just listed like the different families. But like for the species that they did list, they would list the, like, whether it's endangered or critically endangered or vulnerable, which means it's close to being endangered but not quite, but they're still got to take care of it. But basically, the reason I bring this up is because when it listed the American bison, it didn't even list one of the IUCN ranks. It just stated the population, and it was only in the tens of thousands. Like, that's how endangered they are. And like, I didn't realize how serious that was when I was a kid, because I didn't realize just how many millions of people typically live in a country as big as mine. But like, and that's just for humans. But like, yeah, the fact that there could only exist like a few thousand of any species on a planet, like, just how devastating that would be. Like I didn't realize how serious that was when I was young, and it's probably dwindled since then. But yeah, like good on you, Yellowstone, for trying to save the bison, and I hope this profane tank person has a good time with them, the bison. Look, just watching them peacefully from afar. Like, we actually used to have bison at like Monado Zoo in South Australia. I was going to say Adelaide, but it's not in Adelaide. It's in the countryside, just a short drive away from Adelaide. But I don't know if we have bison anymore, but I think we used to, even though it's mostly African animals there. But they also have the wild horses from Mongolia. But like, the fact that, like, I had no idea how lucky I was to actually see them alive when I was younger. So yeah, like, basically, like, the zoos here, like Monado and Adelaide Zoo, they're both, we're really trying to make an effort to conserve all the biodiversity and stuff. Right, Louis? Yeah, we're trying to save little Italian grey pups like you from going extinct. Yeah, just kidding. Yeah, I'm not a fucking idiot. I know they're not. Yeah, I was just making a joke. Like, he's a domestic animal. Yeah, you don't need saving. Well, not yet anyway. There actually are some dog breeds that have gone extinct. I don't think the little piggies here will anytime soon. At least not in Melbourne. They're wildly popular in Melbourne. These dogs are, even though he was born in Sydney, or at least somewhere in New South Wales. Yeah, I don't think he was born in Sydney, or he could have been, but I just know what state he's from, just north of Victoria, the state that Melbourne is the capital of. But not very popular in Adelaide. I've literally only heard about Italian greyhounds when my sister said she was buying one from New South Wales. And she kept me up to date on how big he was getting. Yeah, she actually purchased him like as soon as he was born, basically. But anyway, moving on. Yeah, he's just like a cat. He likes to crawl on top of you. That's why my sister calls him the kitten boy.
The minimal amount of paid days off you get from work. A friend of mine from Wisconsin was very proud he got 20 days off per year. If someone in Germany would offer me only 20 days, I would laugh at him and leave.
Like, I have heard that in France you're only legally required to work like I can't remember how many days it is. Like 5 days, a few weeks, but like only a minority of the year. But you still should work in order to pay the bills and stuff. But like, currently get fired over it. Just maybe lose your home or whatever, but like you still have your job and not your home. I don't know how it works in France, but yeah, if I could get that much holiday time in Australia, or if my parents could, or anyways, it's still recording? Yep, still recording. Oh bullshit, it's been an hour. Might have to split this up into multiple parts.
I get like 14 max frown and I have to accrue them. As an American, I think you could also ask this question to Americans. Cause there are some weird-ass states, man, dry counties. Cities where places aren't allowed to be open on Sunday, or there are only certain hours on Sundays. Not being able to pump your own gas.
Yeah, see, this is why I don't do reaction videos very often, because it takes a long time to edit them. Seriously, like, I've only watched like 5 minutes of the video, but I've been recording my reaction for an hour. My god, why do I suck at this?
I've had several German friends who were amazed that at house parties everyone actually does drink out of red Solo cups.
Again with the Solo cups. Don't really need to add much here.
They thought that was just a weird thing people did in movies, and now they think it is a huge conspiracy or something. I'm Finnish, and few years back people actually threw US-themed parties, and the high point of the parties were the red cups and beer pong played with them. Every person I know who owns a set of those cups, like 20 or so, use them only for beer pong. They wash them and use again in the next party. Standard in Finland are those see-through cups you see in festivals. The red cups make every party just slightly better and classier, and add a feel that the host actually put an effort. That you can identify Texans with the simple phrase, the stars of night are big and bright deep in the heart of Texas.
You know, I'm just gonna cut it here because it's over an hour long already, my video, I mean, so you probably get the idea of like cultural differences and stuff. So you've seen Lil Louis Boy, of course. Once again, feel free to follow him on Instagram, and yeah, I think that'll just about do it for this reaction video. If you'd like me to react to the rest of it, feel free to voice your request in the comments below. And as always, this has been ARC the Clarinet Master. Support me on Patreon, if you will, and buy my photos from Shutterstock and my merchandise from Spreadshirt, although I'm considering moving to Teespring because it's much more, I've heard it's a better site, and I can integrate it into YouTube so I can advertise my merch in below my videos, but for now I'm just with that god-awful Spreadshirt. But feel free to have a look at my Equid store and ask questions on Ask FM, and buy my sheet music from Sheet Music Plus, and yeah, that's about it. So take care, man. This is ARC the Clarinet Master, and I'm signing off.
And as per newly established channel tradition, I hate meetings. He even kinda looks like I hate everything, isn't that funny? And now here's the cat of the leap day, making this the only possible time in at least 4 years this will probably ever happen. Gee, look how young I looked. It's not even the same cat. That is... okay, that is some... yeah, I guess that's a joke. What a way to end off the month. And yeah, that's about it for now. And as I said before, this is ARC the Clarinet Master, though I might be changing my channel name soon. Signing off.